Prepare to get gas because it's time for the Week in Gear. I'm Andy, and this is the show where I bring you the most exciting guitar gear released over the last 7 days. This week, Fender finally brings the legendary B-Bender back to the Telecaster, Gibson drops a massive update to their master-crafted acoustic lineup, and the Gig rig solves your pedalboard expansion problems forever? This episode is sponsored by Voler Guitars. More about them in a bit. Quick question, would you like to win this pedal? For details on how, click the link in the video description. Now, let's kick off this week's most exciting guitar gear releases with a guitar that is bringing back one of the coolest, most underutilized pieces of hardware in Fender's history. This is the Fender John Osborne Telecaster. And if you listen to Brothers Osborne, you already know that John Osborne is an absolute monster of a guitar player. He's built a career seamlessly blending sort of traditional country bluegrass twang with a massive modern collection of rock tones. And he's been playing a heavily modified Telecaster for years. And Fender has finally partnered with him to release it to the public. Let's talk about the elephant in the room first, because it is not an actual elephant, because we haven't got the budget for that. Because it is the best part of this guitar. The B-Bender is back, baby. Now, if you aren't familiar with this ingenious 1950s mechanism, it is a lever system mounted to the back of the body and connected to the upper strap button. And then when you push down on the neck of the guitar, the strap pulls the mechanism, which bends your B string up a perfect whole step. And that allows you to create flawless pedal steel style chord voicings and pedal steel style licks on a standard guitar. And as far as I'm aware, Fender hasn't put a B-Bender into a regular production guitar since about the mid-2000s. So, seeing it return here, for me, is pretty incredible. And I want one. Let's let my wallet cool down for a moment and hear it in action.
And it's just trying to emulate a pedal steel guitar. You know, before we would have to bend, which is fine, we all do it, but to be able to just go, I mean, come on.
The guitar itself is built around a classic older body finished in Olympic white, which is road-worn, and its nitrocellulose lacquer, which is something very welcome to, I think, most people. It's paired with a bolt-on maple neck featuring John's custom profile, which is called a 1968C. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds dangerously close to modern C. I hope it's chunky. And the back of that neck is hand-oiled to give it that sort of broken-in, drag-free feel. That is a 7¼ radius on the fretboard with 21 jumbo frets. For electronics, it is loaded with 2 custom-voiced John Osborne signature single-coil pickups wired to a standard 3-way switch and a master volume and tone. It's anchored by a modified vintage string-through bridge, modified for the B-Bender, of course, and that's got compensated brass barrel saddles. That's really hard to say. Compensated brass barrel saddles for closer to perfect intonation for a Telecaster, and vintage F-stamped tuners. Now, I have some wonderful guitars. I have 2 fantastic Telecasters. But somehow, after seeing this, my entire guitar collection feels incomplete. And I'm seriously considering selling off some stuff to fund this John Osborne signature. I love that custom pickguard. It reminds me of Johnny Cash's Gibson, the red sort of burst one. And I've always wanted a B-Bender Tele. Well, that's not true actually. I've wanted one for about 6, 7, 8 years, which for me, and as a guitar player that doesn't own one, that is eternity. What I mean is that this guitar gives me so much gas, and I wanted to talk about it first because it was almost my pick of the week, but I chose something far more sensible as my pick. So sensible but still madly exciting. But that's why I'm so enthusiastic about this Telecaster. I love white guitars. I love Teles. I love guitars that are a little bit weird. I want to bend the B with a fuzz pedal. I want to B-bend everything. Oh. The Fender John Osborne Telecaster comes with a vintage style hard case and lands right at around the 2,000 notes mark, which is a lot of money, but not as much money as it could have been because it's made in Ensenada, Mexico. But before you start screaming in the comments about that being an expensive Mexican Fender, the custom pickups and the B-bender are taking up a lot of that money. Regardless, the gasometer is so excited that it rocks up to wallet on fire. Honestly, whilst researching this episode, I got as far as adding this to my cart in 3 different retailers until sensible me took back control. Whoops. Say it with me now. I don't need another guitar. I don't need another guitar. I don't need another guitar. And breathe. If you need another guitar, I recommend checking out this one at the links in the video description. Thank you! Now let's step away from the country and look at some absolute premium American-made acoustics. If you are a gigging acoustic player or a studio musician with a ton of money to invest in your craft, Gibson just dropped a pretty big update to their modern Dreadnought lineup out of Bozeman, Montana. This is the Gibson Songwriter Recording Artist Series. Gibson originally introduced the square shoulder Songwriter model back in the late 90s, and I will forever associate it with Sheryl Crow, even though I'm not even sure she played one. But this new recording artist version is built specifically to cash in on 90s nostalgia. But this new recording artist version is built specifically to bridge the gap between a vintage acoustic tone and modern feedback-free live performance. Let's take a look at the woods first. Tone woods, maybe. Gibson is using a thermally aged Sitka spruce top paired with rosewood backs and sides. Now, I couldn't find if this is a solid rosewood or laminated, but it absolutely has to be solid rosewood at this price point. So I'm hoping it's solid. Under the hood, they're using their famed 1930s scalloped advanced A bracing, which I don't know if that's advanced for 1930s or advanced for almost 30s. It's 100 years, man. The neck is mahogany with a lovely round profile, topped with a bound ebony fretboard, a bone nut, and classic mother-of-pearl diamond eye inlays. Ooh. But the real magic here, well, not magic, but the real joy here for the gigging guitar player is the electronics. Gibson completely avoided cutting a giant plastic preamp into the side of the guitar. Instead, they loaded this with the LR Baggs hi-fi system. And this mounts directly under the bridge plate. And we've got a picture that should be on screen now, delivering, well, what I think is an incredibly natural microphone-like acoustic tone that is, well, should be highly feedback resistant on loud stages. The volume and tone controls are tucked neatly inside the sound hole, leaving the antique natural or the rosewood burst finishes completely uninterrupted. I really dig this, and I haven't ever played this pickup, but I did check out the official release video from LR Baggs, and it sounds so much better than most pickups I've heard in acoustic guitars with the undersaddle piezo, the piezo. They're offering this in the standard full-body Dreadnought, as well as an EC version featuring a cutaway for upper fret access, if that's your bag. These are master-crafted professional-grade tools, so they sit squarely in that premium Gibson acoustic price bracket. So, price reveal, it's about 5,000 notes. Whoa. Now, my opinion on these has flip-flopped several times. I've gone from, yeah, that's premium Gibson acoustic, of course it's going to be expensive, to, in what world is a songwriter spending 5,000 notes on a guitar? Now, I know it's easy for me to sit here on my lovely green mini sofa and pick on Gibson pricing, but if you are looking for a great acoustic guitar, there are far better deals out there. But there must be a breed of people with a lot of money that don't mind dropping this kind of cash for a name on a headstock. Now, I'm fairly certain that if I played one of these, I'd be down the back of this sofa looking for 10k because I can't decide which color I like the most, the natural one or the burst. There is no money in this sofa. I'm going to get lots of comments saying that this Gibson is too expensive and that Gibson is a rip-off, blah, blah, blah. But if you are genuinely interested and thinking about buying this guitar or one of these models, please let me know in the comments, as I'm trying to understand the target audience for this guitar, and I think I might have misunderstood the whole thing. Let me know. I think I just feel a bit offended that it's called the Songwriter. I think that's it. It's my vulnerable heart. The gasometer is a firm borrow it. Borrow it for a studio session and a tour, and then give it back in its original condition. Sorry, in its original condition. That scratch was there when you gave it me, right? And now, let's talk about Voler guitars. This episode is brought to you by Voler Guitars, and if you don't know Voler Guitars, you should, because they build premium instruments in Japan and then ship them all over the world. Their prices make some of the big brands look ridiculously expensive, and there's a sale on right now. If you go to the link in the video description, you'll get to the clearance sale where you can see that there's 15% off the Oz MC, the Vasti MC, and the ZVA 4 and 5 basses. I'm going to try and add a Vasti MC to my cart, see what happens. Let's go for vintage white, and there it is. It's 1,089 euros without the sale, which is already a very good price. Add that to the cart, view my cart, and there it is. The sale price is calculated, and then when I check out, it's going to give me the actual price that I pay in total. This is called the all-in pricing for the USA, the UK, selected EU countries, and Japan. The price you see is the price you pay. There are no extra hidden fees, shipping, handling, or tariffs. But these are end-of-the-line models. It is a clearance sale after all, so once they're gone, they are gone. I highly recommend you go to volerguitars.com, have a look, and see if you can pick yourself up a very nice Japanese guitar at a very nice price. Right, on with the show. For our next piece of gear, we need to talk about pedalboard management. If you, like me, are a pedal addict who can't possibly play a show without 5 preamps, 6 delays, and about 20 fuzzes, which is the correct amount, by the way, this could be for you. This is the Gig Rig Plus 4. If you're running a massive rig and you have simply run out of programmable effects loops, Daniel Steinhardt, which I'm trying really hard not to say Steinhardt because I'm in Austria, Dan and the brilliant minds over at the Gig Rig have just dropped a very cool expansion module. If you're already running a master switcher like the G3S or the G3S Atom, or really any unit with programmable remote switches, the Plus 4 acts as a seamless extension. It gives you 4 additional completely pristine effects loops. Because it has 2 independent signal paths, you can configure this to run as 4 mono loops in series or 2 true stereo loops for your fancy modern high-end modulation and reverb pedals. And just like everything the Gig Rig makes, the loops are fully passive and relay switched with absolutely zero filtering. And this means you can confidently throw your high impedance, sensitive germanium fuzzes and vintage treble boosters in these loops without ruining your core tone. You can control the Plus 4 with the Gig Rig remote or a TRS remote switch or via standard MIDI. In fact, Dan can probably explain this better himself.
Plus 4 can give you either 4 mono loops or 2 stereo loops, depending on how you configure it. And because it uses relay switching with absolutely zero filtering, there is nothing in the signal path coloring your tone. So it's perfect for everything from vintage fuzzes to modern line level stereo effects.
I have a lot of time for Dan, but I've never used any of his Gig Rig gear. And this Plus 4 would make absolute sense for someone like me who likes to play with several preamps and several drive pedals, and I don't want them interacting with each other unless I do. So if you play with more than one preamp, or let's say you have a modeler integrated with some stomp boxes, or you've just got loads of pedals, this is a great way to expand the rig, and it does it for what I think is a very reasonable price. The Plus 4 is currently up for sale on the Gig Rig website for £157.50 plus shipping, and I'm sure Victor has estimated the price over there in US dollars and euros. Thanks, Victor. This is certainly not a budget solution, but I think if you're at the stage when you need a device like this, then you're probably already investing quite an amount of money in your rig, and you want to keep everything pristine and high quality. So, if your pedal board is growing out of control and you refuse to compromise your signal path, the gasometer is at a buy now. Check the link below for exact pricing and availability in your region. Let's swing from terribly geeky switchers over to 1980s British high gain. If you haven't heard of Wins guitars before, they're a relatively new brand to the... Are they new? They're new to me. That have just dropped a fascinating little hybrid lunchbox amplifier that is specifically built for modern desktop recording and fly-in gigs, if we still do those. This is the Wins, or the Vince, Guitars lead burner, and it is fairly affordable. This thing is incredibly compact. It weighs just 3.5 kilograms and has a footprint small enough to sit comfortably on your desk next to your interface. But under the hood, whoa, it is packing a dual 12AX7 JJ tube preamp section for that high voltage British saturation, and they've paired that with a simple 30-watt solid-state power section. It's also a range of amps, and the lead burner is the latest one, I think. But it's the one that I know about, anyway. For me, this is very similar to the Joyo Bantamp series of amps, which are superb and affordable, but the lead burner has a big difference. And what makes this lead burner very interesting, at least as a studio tool, is the built-in IR loader on the front panel. It comes preloaded with 9 classic and modern cabinet impulse responses, but it also leaves 2 slots open for your own custom IRs, and you can overwrite the originals, so that's 11. And you don't need to download any clunky proprietary software to load them. You just plug it into your computer via USB, and it pops up as a standard USB drive, and you drag and drop your 24-bit WAV files right onto the amp. And I know that IR loader amps are not new either. There's several in this room right now. It's just at this price point. They sent me a press release for the amp, and I am so curious because it looks good. It looks good, you know? It looks like a good amp. I like the design. It's, again, borrowed from lots of places, but I love that it's got a bunch of switches on it, which activate different types of modes and mods, and I'm a huge fan of JCM 800 amps from Marshall, so naturally, I need to know what this thing sounds like. And you'll be pleased to know they are sending one out for review, and you can always click the subscribe button to increase the chances, but never guarantee, that review video shows up in your feed in the near future. It hits the market with an expected price of between about 340 and 380 notes, and I was milking a cow then. And at that price, it is not a no-brainer purchase, but it certainly could be fun for a lot of people. Yeah, it's just above no-brainer. I haven't seen any major retailers stocking it yet, so I'm not sure where you can pick one up, but except for the official website, which of course I will link below. For a hybrid tube amp and IR loader that you can almost throw in a backpack, depending how big the bag is, the gasometer is at a very curious add to cart, and hope that there is a returns policy until Andy reviews it.
Andy's Pick of the Week.
For my pick of the week, we're heading over to Denmark. Hi, Denmark. Baum Guitars have been making some of the most stunning retro modern instruments on the market for quite some years, but they've traditionally sat at a more premium price, with some being available at a more intermediate price point. Well, that changes this week, Sonny Jim. This is the brand new Baum Guitars Vega Series. There's the new Carve, the Verve, and specifically, the Revolt is my pick of the week. And I've got one just here in this gig bag. This deluxe gig bag. Now, Baum Guitars just launched what I think is their biggest lineup ever. Designed to make their signature Danish aesthetic and their custom voiced tones far more accessible for everyday players. It is their lowest entry price to date, and they actually sent 2 of these over for me to check out in the studio. Oops. And this is the Revolt. And it's so, look how strong I am. There. This is taking the top spot this week. That camera's upside down. Why is that camera upside down? Yes, this Revolt is in incredibly sleek, deep burgundy finish. Look at that. It is loaded up with a pair of their proprietary custom wound gold sound P90s, and it just screams. And the design language on this is just absolutely flawless. My full review of this is already on the channel, and you can click that card up there if you want to watch it. But let's hear a little bit right now. The geek in me wants to know how it's so clear. Now, spec-wise, the Revolt is, well, it's super light. There is super light mahogany in the body and a bolt-on roasted maple neck with a modern C profile that would normally make me gip. But this neck is, this neck is so silky and smooth, it is just divine. That was my Danish accent then. I won't go into too much detail here because I've made its own dedicated video, and that is quite long. But in the world of Strat copies, the Revolt feels like a modern classic. I haven't just got the Revolt, because over here in this box is the Verve, and I haven't gotten around to playing this yet, or even unboxing it. But it is Baum's take on a Tele, and I'm sure there's pictures up there. And if this is as good as the Revolt, then Fender players might start looking elsewhere, specifically to Denmark. Now, to give you a bit of behind the scenes on the range, they are made in Indonesia, and then they're QC'd and set up in Denmark, just like my videos. Oh no, my videos are made in Austria and QC'd and set up in Denmark. Now, this is the important part, because this Revolt, he says, picking it back up, plays so well, it makes it feel far more expensive than it is. And yes, it has good bones and good electronics and great design, but the setup on this and the attention to detail to making this a fantastic playable guitar out of the box is what makes it a very, very good guitar. And it's going to sit with me for a bit longer. Now, let's talk money. You can now get a Baum guitar for under 700 notes. This one is just under 900 notes. And if you're looking for something somewhere between an SG and a Tele, this Revolt should jump straight into your cart. But then you shouldn't stop there. Check the links in the video description for the exact pricing, of course, but getting this true Danish boutique design at an accessible price without cutting too many corners, they've done really well. And the Baum Guitars Revolt earns a gasometer rating of Wallet on Fire! A huge thank you to everyone who watches and subscribes, but as always, a special thanks to the Patreon supporters scrolling past my face right now. A lot of P's. Hello there! And now a huge hello and thank you to YouTube members on screen. Hello, YouTube members on screen. Hello there. It is genuinely a pleasure to have you all part of the show. And I'm going to put this down because now I've got to say some names. A special shout out to the top tier members. Andy deserves your cash, you freeloading gas guzzlers. Antonio Cruz Barreto. Buddha Blue. Boom Shakalaka. Buzzle. Chris Kelly. Craig's Fist. Darth Bagel. David Meyer. Dirk. Doug Paget. Foz Onkel. Yindrik Strelka, Johnny McBadminton, Kultur Pop, Mike CQB241, Mike Lute, Andrew Morgan, Craig VB, Darius Lives, Gary O'Neill, Josh Tanberg, Man Dude Bro, PQ Deads, Sarang Narayan, Sanya Chen, Sarah Marie, and Southern Panda 33. Thank you, top tier members. As you've stayed until the end, here is a fake fact that sounds true, but it isn't. Did you know that vintage guitar strings were banned from early radio stations because their high nickel content created static electricity, and that could knock the entire building off the air? Don't forget the competition to win the pedal, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye!